I don't have to tell you that America seems to be obsessed with freedom. You see it all the time in American media. You hear it a lot from the voices and the mouths of the American people, to include everyday people, city folk, country folk, politicians. Almost any and every American, you're bound to hear it at some point. Unfortunately, though, to me, it seems like some people have become so obsessed with it that now the huge complaint is the lack of it, with things seemingly having gone in reverse. Either that or people just are not understanding what freedom really is or what it means. And I actually wouldn't put that past people with all the redefining we're doing nowadays. But I don't know, man. It doesn't really seem like there's a threat per se to freedom, as it were, to the US or the Americas in general, for there to always be a hoorah or a complaint for that matter over it. And I know I hinted at the objective going in the other direction, but maybe it's more so turned in on itself. I'm Christopher, and I hope you like the content enough to stick around. So before I get to the freedoms in Germany versus those in the US, let me first preface this with this question. Has the very basic idea and concept of freedom in the US turned in on itself? Here's why that question seemed important to me. It's because nowadays in the US, when you look at the US and its media and its issues and things that are reported, things that go viral out there, things that make good stories, things that get all the views, all the clicks, it seems like more or less everyone there is just against everyone there. It's not even like anyone from outside of the country is coming for their freedoms. It's like everybody is looking for something from each other. I want to be able to do this, say this, go there. But then you have the next person that's like, whoa, 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 don't you dare do that, say that, go there, because that's not something I would do. I would say, I would go, and I'm offended by the idea that you would do something that I would never do. And then things are taken one of two ways, either politically and you got protests in the street, or unlawfully and you got fights in the street. Either way, on the outside looking in, it just looks like the same team versus the same team. So what does freedom look like here in Germany? Or at least, how is freedom represented by the people of Germany? So this is strictly my opinion, but first of all, if freedom is legitimately had, I just really don't think it needs to be shouted from the rooftops. To me, you can recognize freedom without having to hear about it. For example, other than the events of the last couple years, if you know what I'm saying, I really never seen a protest for wanting any kind of freedom for anything. Now that could have just been me not looking for it, or maybe just being on the outside of things that aren't my business or don't concern me, but I really just never seen it before Ovid K. I mean, even if I wanted to cut it back to petty examples, let's take drinking, right? Germans like to drink. Why is it that in a country where you're bound to find a beer lover, that you can have alcohol in public? In the States, most states, public drinking is forbidden, and you can get wrapped up in some criminal nonsense for doing that. I mean, also in Germany, at 16, you can have your first drink, where in the States, most states, if not all, I don't really know every single state, you have to wait till you're 21. Do you know how many young people you can save from having a police record if you would just lower the age, because they're going to do it anyway? But I think they know they're going to do it anyway, and this is just another way to grab some money and maybe at the same time feed the prisons. I think in Germany, it's not considered something you have to anticipate until you're 21. Meanwhile, at 18 in the States, you can vote, you can serve in the US military for the country, but you can't have your first drink until 3 years later. I just don't like that they hold that over the American people's heads. And like I said, this is a petty example, but a better one could be cheap to free education for all citizens. Why in the hell does America hold education like a carrot on a stick? In Germany, they believe in educating the people so that these people that they educate can go on to keep the country going. That's just not the course of actions in the States. I believe that university in the States is now just regarded as people having the concept, if I do this, this will help me get a leg up over other people. So many people have this idea, I'll pay all this money now, and later I'll get it all back tenfold. And I don't know the ratios and percentages, but I'm willing to bet that most people that graduate uni these days ain't even getting out of it what they thought they would be. There's so many people in the States right now that are hurting and figuring out ways to do it themselves. And that's going to keep the people on everyone for themselves kind of mindset. Now I understand the US is huge in comparison to Germany, but each state can do some kind of variation of everybody being allowed to be educated. Somebody has to keep the country going. Who's going to do it? So in my opinion, here in Germany, they do it the right way. This is what freedom looks like to me. I can go on and on with examples, but I think I've made the point. Freedom just looks different depending on if it actually exists or not. And to me, Compared to Germany, it just seems like a lot of the American people may be attached to the idea of freedom rather than actually being free.